I go along with this definition. Very similar to what we did with our patty paper. Now I'm going to attempt to draw these two triangles the same size and the same shape. I'm not an artist, so you may have to pretend a little bit. Okay, so those are going to be the same size and shape. Don't laugh at my drawing. Oops. That's kind of...
Triangles, obviously. Like 3 corners. Whatever.
Okay, there's a little bit too much talking happening right now. Shh. Thinking and writing is what should be happening right now, not your mouth moving. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put some markings on here very similar to what I did on my patty paper. And so if we think about overlaying that triangle ABC on top of triangle DEF, the corresponding part should be nice and matched up. They should match perfectly so we could be able to tell that in fact they have the same measure or congruent angles, congruent sides. Okay. If we want to write that down, this picture in notation, we can write what's called a congruent statement. That triangle ABC is going to be congruent to triangle DEF. It does not necessarily have to be alphabetical order, but they do have to match up. For instance, I wrote A first, so that means that D must match A, and they do in the picture. And that B should be matching E, and they do in the picture, and C and F. Not necessarily alphabetical. Congruent to which angle, which side's congruent to which side. So to list the 6 corresponding congruent parts, you can either look at the picture, so like angle A and angle D, or you can look at the statement and look at the matching. A is in the first position and so is D. So they go together. And we're going to do that for each angle on each side. So what would angle B have to be congruent to? Angle E, good. And angle C? Angle F. Because C and F are the last position in the statement, and if you look at the figures, those are the ones that match. So there's 3 of them. Now we're going to do the sides. Look at the first 2 letters. AB would be congruent to, or you can look at your diagram that you drew. AB has 1 or 2 tick marks, and DE has 2 tick marks. So they matchy-matchy. All right, what about BC? What does it match? EF, good. The last 2 letters, let me get a different color. Yeah. Last 2 letters and last 2 letters. Or if you look up here at your diagram. And then the last one. Okay, good. First and last. First and last. Or look at your picture. 6 corresponding congruent parts. Or if you think about what we did with our patty paper, these would be the things that would match nice and perfect on top of one another. Okay. Now obviously these pictures are not going to be quite so easy to tell, perhaps. Right? It's not always going to be like, well, A is the angle on the left-hand side and D is the angle on the left-hand side, so they must go together. They could orient them any way they want to. I'm going to go back to my patty paper for just a minute. Statement and try to match them up. So for X, what does it match to?
V.
All right, so let's mark it on our picture. So angle X and angle V are going to go together, and I'm going to list that down here. We want to look for another angle, gentlemen. Y and W. Okay, so Y and W are congruent. And Z. So angle Z in the top triangle is congruent to angle Z in the bottom one. All right, we got our angles. Now we got to go for our sides. So let's look at the first two letters. X, Y, what would it have to correspond to? VW, these first two. We need to mark it. All right, can you please list the other two corresponding congruent parts? Now, I need to mark this on my picture, don't I? So we have, I got X, Y, Y, Z, so this one, and W, Z. What if the figure's drawn and you had to use some background information? Like, what if we had some parallel lines involved and some transversals involved? Let's do another one. Do one more. One more. We're going to make this one 90. This one's going to be 90. All right, this time we're going to identify the congruent triangles. We're going to make a congruent statement. So please draw your figure. And they're both 90s. Parallel lines. And we're going to let that diagonal sort of act as a transversal here. What would we know about these two angles? Why are they congruent? What is it? Yeah, they're alternate interior angles of a transversal. And side. This one and this one. These are alternate interiors as well. For the same reasoning. So they're congruent. Now let's look at the sides. Are the corresponding sides congruent? They're the same distance apart at either place. Yeah, because that's the definition of parallel lines. So those are going to have to be the same. The parallel lines are the same distance apart. These two parallel lines are the same distance apart, so these two sides are going to have to be the same. And then HF in the upper triangle is the same length as HF in the bottom sort of right-hand triangle. Now we have all of our markings. All the corresponding angles are the same. All the corresponding sides are congruent. So therefore, we're going to write our congruent statement. Triangle, and I'm going to start down here at H. HF, or HEF is congruent to triangle. I have to matchy it. What goes with this top triangle? F, so I write F next. Then E in the top triangle corresponds to what in the bottom? And then F in the top, H. So you do have to be careful and make sure everything matches when you write that congruent statement. Okay? All right. So we're going to stop here. I'm going to give you your rest of the time to work on